Hey, what's good, everybody? I wanted to make this video about the deer. The deer to me is more of a totem, and I always say by default because in the native zodiac sign, it's like I guess if you're born in the northern hemisphere, then if you're like the sign of Gemini, basically you're a deer, right? That's you have the deer zodiac, right? And if you were born in the southern hemisphere, you would be an owl, which is funny because those two animals have always been very prevalent, right? To me. So what made me make this video is the other day, like I was in the mountains, maybe like over a week ago now, and there was a deer, but in this case, it was a female deer, right? So the female deer is different than the male deer, right? Or the buck. It's like it's more gentle, right? So obviously that happened to be the case. So it has to do with intuition. It has to do with the heart, with the gentleness, in a sense. But sometimes it depends how the energy is received. And in this case, the deer didn't run from me, right? So I saw it. I stopped because it was in a place I never had seen it in the mountains, a place that I go often, and I had never seen a deer right there. So it caught my attention, right? And I stopped. I was looking at it for, I don't know, at least maybe 10 minutes till it kind of walked off. But that they're highly intuitive, right? Because they have to be, right? They're a prey animal, right? So obviously the males can cause damage, right? I've seen two males go at it during, I guess, mating season. I'm guessing that's what they were fighting about, right? But I've seen them like going at it, like, I don't know, 20 feet in front of me, right? Just bumping heads and all that, while the female deer were like around, right? So in this case, like I said, there was a mother deer with a baby deer not too far behind, maybe like that, maybe like 20 feet behind her. Um, yeah, and they were just they were grazing. There's usually a river there, but it was muddy because I guess the river is dried up right now, and yeah, they didn't feel any threat from me. So it always makes me feel good. Like, okay, my energy's in balance if the deer intuitively felt I was no threat. I didn't like it didn't get any negative energy from me. So it chilled. It did what it did. It didn't feel the need to run away or anything like that, because they will. Even I've run into, and I noticed that, like, I've been in an aggressive energy before, which is sometimes the case. Well, I'll go to the hills or mountains, and the deer felt that, where they saw me and they're like, yeah, I'm not. So that's put me in check before, like, oh wow, like, okay, if the deer was even over here, like, yeah, like, it's cool, like, hey, nice to see you, but let me get going. So it was nice to see that, right? And something had been telling me to slow down, so it's definitely that, right? Because that's one of the things that, I don't know if they'd call it a negative trait, but the deer is, I think, even on the native zodiac sign, right? It says something about remembering to be less anxious, right? That's one of the things it talks about. Like, man, I wish I had it somewhere right here, but it talks about, oh, this time around the medicine wheel, you got to remember to be less anxious, right? So that's one of the things of the deer that it's not negative, right? But I guess that's one of those things that they might say is negative, right? But the deer also has to do with regeneration, because, like I said, the antlers, right? The male has the antlers. That's why I knew it was a female deer, because I believe they shed their antlers, I think, from January to March, if I'm not mistaken, right? And so I saw this, in the beginning of December, the deer. It might have been like 2 weeks ago. I remembered to do this video today because I was hiking up a mountain yesterday and there were deer hoof prints, right? So I remembered, I was like, oh, I need to make that video. And it reminded, like, yesterday, see that, right? Like, so when I'm hiking up a mountain and I tap into that deer energy, like, I mean, they're amazing climbers, right? Those little hooves pretty much allow them to step anywhere. Like, I've seen them, scale the mountain effortlessly, right? Just like a bear, but a bear is sheer, like, strength, right? And the deer, though, it reminds you how strong they are, right? Because I've seen them scale these mountains, but not just strong, but agile as well, right? They have tons of endurance. They have tons of agility, right? Speed, right? So they have speed, agility, strength, endurance. So they're amazing when it comes to that, right? Like they're very skillful. That's why they're able to evade. That's why they're able to evade when they're being hunted, right? Uh, so that's part of the thing. That's why I guess they could compare them to, I guess, Geminis, right, in the zodiac, because they have that, but they're very charismatic too, right? Like if you look at a deer, like they're beautiful. Like me, I was stuck there, like everything stopped, right? I was in no hurry. I realized, where do I need to go? And I just embraced that moment and just stopped and stared like at the deer grazing and just the beauty of it, right? Um, I guess probably that's why the movie Bambi was such a big hit, right? Because you're just staring at these deer grazing, and it reminds you to take it all in, right? The beauty of life. So it could be that, right? When you see the spirit animal, it's like telling you to slow down. In this case, that's exactly what it meant for me. It was like I was being told to take some time off of work. I hadn't really taken any time off since like the whole year. And I guess what better time, right? It's already the holidays. I still was busy working, and so like the spirit world was already showing me that I needed to take a break, and even things happened, right? Like some stuff with my car, this and that, so I had to get repairs, and so it was like, wow, if you don't take the time off, we're gonna make you take time off, right? And they did, and I took it gracefully. I was like, okay, I got it. Like you were giving me the messages and the signs anyway, so when it happened, like, okay, you really need to take some time off, and then even the deer appeared. um, I got the message, right? Um, and it was crazy. I already made the spirit animal video about the coyote, but I seen the most coyotes I've ever seen in my life in person the other day too, right? I think it was after the deer, but it was just it was mind blowing, right? Because I was like, oh wow. And if you've seen my coyote spirit animal video, you know it has to do with change, right? Whenever I see it, I pay attention because a change is coming, and so it was interesting that the coyote showed up like that, and I'm still expecting tons of changes coming, but I've already started seeing certain changes, but I'm still expecting a lot more, right? So back to the deer. In this case, yeah, it had lot to do with gentleness. But the deer does have to do with that, right? Regeneration, because it can grow its antlers back, right? Like, so that's an amazing thing. It's obviously a very vigilant, um, spirit animal. It has to do with the intuition, the innocence of it, just the heart chakra as well, right? Like, I'll just share a personal story, and then I think, like, even that, right? They're very nurturing towards like that. When I seen it, it was the female deer with the baby following right behind, right? Like, I don't know, 20 something feet behind, and so it has that nurturing, protective energy, right? The mom is up in the front, and then when the coast is clear, you could see the little baby deer like looking, like, oh, hey, is it fine? Like, am I good? And then it'll come out. Like, once it sees that the mom's good, then the baby one came out. So that was pretty awesome, right? To see that nurturing, protective mom energy. The mom put herself out there first, just in case. I guess she would have gotten eaten, and she would have been eaten, and then the baby would have probably booked it the other way, right? Or something like that. So it has to do with that nurturing energy as well. But it's a huge thing with the heart chakra, right? It's definitely came to me when I needed to open up my heart, when I had been, whether people had already made you bitter or stuff like that. There's nothing like the deer to open up your heart chakra again, right? Like, not just because of that, right? Watching it, the beauty and the gracefulness of it, and just the way it moves, right? Like, even that, when I was watching it, as it was like walking on the, because it was muddy, like, it was, every step was so defined, like it looked like a cartoon, or like those show horses, right? When the way they, the way the show horses, I forgot what the word is, not gallop, but just the way they walk, like every single strut, like they lift up their legs, like that's how the deer was walking, right? Because it had to, because of the mud, but it did it so defined, like so perfect. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. It looked like a show horse, right? So yeah, yeah, and they're vigilant too. At the same time as they're doing it, they're like, oh, very aware, very in tune, right? And so as a spirit animal, obviously it's bringing that energy. But when it comes to the heart chakra, it's like, like I'll just share this story of a personal experience, right, with the heart chakra, and then I'll end it there. And also, there's someone that I interviewed, the Art of Awakening, that has one of the best deer spirit animal videos that I've listened to, right? Like she goes really in depth. Like it's probably like 20 something minutes long to 30 minutes long, but I'll put a link to it in the comments because it's just I love her deer spirit animal video, right? Like I said, she was on one of my first podcast episodes, I believe. Like, well, yeah. So I'll just get into it. So I'll put the link in the comments if you guys want to check that out. But when it comes to the heart chakra, you know, since I just made the video about losing a loved one, when my brother passed, you know, I was up in the hills, right? And I go off path. So I was walking kind of like the deer, right? I was picking up my legs like walking. So I wasn't looking up. And all of a sudden, when I look up, there's this huge deer right in front of me. You know, I don't know, maybe like 10 or 15 feet in front of me. It was like right there. Big old deer, the antlers, everything. And we just like lock eyes, and I'm looking at this deer. But it looked so familiar, like the eyes. And there was just, even though it was a big male deer with the antlers and everything, there was this compassion in the eyes. And I looked at it, and then I just broke down crying. And I was like, what the hell? Like, and the deer looks at me, and it just puts its head down like it could feel my pain, right? And instantly my heart just like exploded, right? Like, because obviously after my brother had passed, you know, if you guys want to hear more about that, you could watch my podcast episode 30, which I just posted. But you know, it was a, you know, I know my heart was going through stuff, right? Whether it was becoming a little colder or a little whatever, like just to deal with everything, the grief and all that. Like there was definitely a lot going on, and that deer, um, that experience with the heart definitely helped open up my heart a little once again, right? Or a lot, you know. Maybe it was a lot, right? It was like just boom, it hit me, and just watching the deer, like I could feel that it felt my pain, right? And the way it put its head down would be like someone, right? Someone that's in front of you and watching you grieve, and you could see that they feel your pain, and the way it put its head down, like, oh man, like it didn't know what to do, but it didn't run away or nothing. It just like stood there. Like it could have ran away at any time. It could have just been like, yeah, I'm out of here. But it just looked at me, and then it put its head down like, damn, like, oh man, like I feel your pain kind of thing, or almost like that. Like if it was, you know, it felt like that, like it was a relative just looking at me, and not, you know, just feeling the pain, right? So it was a beautiful moment actually, right? Like you can't make stuff like that up. It's like too, it seems like a fairy tale kind of thing, right? Like it just doesn't. And I guess that's the magic that the deer brings, right? That's it doesn't live in this, you know, like you know, like I had interviewed you know, I did the podcast interview with Accurate AF Tarot, right? And she mentioned how, you know, Geminis are multi-dimensional beings, right? I don't know if she did it on that or we had done this other video as well, but that's what it seems like, right? Like the deer lives in both worlds simultaneously, right? It's like that's why you would see it in a cartoon with fairies or this or that or something like that, right? Like it seems like a dream when I've ran into the deer like this in the forest or in the hills or in the mountains, right? It's like a setting where it's like this magical being, right? And it'll just appear out of nowhere, and just as fast as it appears, it's gone. Or even times where I've told people like, oh, look at the deer, like I just spot them, maybe because that, right? We're so connected, I feel it, and I'll look, and there it is, and it's blended so good, it's like almost impossible to see sometimes. And I've been with people, and I'm like, oh, look at the deer, and they're like, where? Like right there. And they're like, where? Oh my God, right? Look, stop, look right there. And like, oh wow, like I couldn't see it. So they blend in so good. It's just like it's a part of nature. And when you open your eyes to that, like poof, they pop out like a Where's Waldo kind of picture, right? Like they're there, but you just gotta like, you know, I guess if you know, maybe that's why they remind you like to open up your eyes to the magic, right? Like it's all magic. It's all like it's a different realm. It's a different reality when you're connecting with the deer, right? Like it's and that's the beauty that they bring, right? So I think I'll end it there. Like I said, I'll put the link to the Art of Awakening's deer spirit animal video because I think she goes into it with such great detail. To me, it's just more, I guess I could share from my personal experiences, and and share that. So they were kind of pushing me to make this video, so that's why I did. And so yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you soon. Peace. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I wanna feel this way forever.